Well, by popular request and it just making sense, I'm doing a video on how our birds are doing. So this is one of our birds. We have learned from experience from having chickens in the city not to name our birds. Oop, she's getting feisty. She wants to go back. So we do not name them. So that one does not have a name um, because chickens don't live very long, and they have a multitude of ways of dying. So we found it is less emotional to not name them. We still take care of them. They still belong to Yahweh, and we are stewards of them. But it's easier on us if we don't name them. So these are the same chicks that I showed you in the last video that we had these in. The breed that I just showed you is called a Dominique. So there is one of the roosters. He's running away from me. And there's one of the hens. They are by far the smallest of the chickens, but the most docile. That's about the only hen who will let me hold her for an extended period of time, but the others are eating, so she wants in on the action. That is something we've observed about chickens, or, well, chickens and the guineas too. We have the guineas in a separate pen, which I'll get to in a bit. The birds in general, it seems, at least these birds, the fowl, they value food more on how much the other ones want it rather than how it tastes. So if there's something that nothing else is willing to try, they won't touch it. But if everything else shows interest, then they will fight over it. So I have a few down here. The white ones are Delawares, and the black ones are Australorps. The Australorps are mean. They will fight each other. They're big. They're the biggest of the group. They're the most aggressive. And out of the 25 birds, well, we have 36 birds. We have 25 chickens, and there they are, 11 guineas. Of the chickens, of the 25, at least 14 are roosters. And considering that each rooster really ought to have about 10 hens, we have way too many roosters. So we are going to cull them, not right now because we have a more pressing matter, but if we were to say, well, we're not going to cull any of, yeah, and sometimes they do that, kind of like people, they will find reasons to fight, especially if it means picking on the little ones. So yeah, the males pick on the females, the bigger ones pick on the littler ones. They kind of sound like people. So yeah, the Australorps get all fluffy when they decide to look imposing and aggressive. Yeah, so if we were to get 10 hens per rooster, we have 14 roosters, that would be 140 just the hens. So if you were to say 14 roosters, 10 hens per rooster, it makes 140 hens plus 14 roosters, that makes 154 chickens. We are not ready for that. So, not that like we're not emotionally ready or we're not prepared. We don't have the physical space, and do not have mastery of our physical space sufficient to handle 150 fowl at one time. So we're not going to do that. So that means that we will be having a whole lot of chicken soup, and we are not going to let anything go to waste. Let me switch hands here. Holding it in one place is boring. The feathers, you can use those for all sorts of stuff. I mean, yes, on an industrial level, you can use feathers as a replacement for paper, but we do not have the process for that. However, stiff feathers make good comforters, stuffing for comforters, and down makes good pillows, so we will probably learn how to make those. All those cute little chickens. Now, they are not fully adult, and we don't know if we will let them get to full maturity. We're not sure because they are getting more aggressive by the day, and it would be better to get them gone sooner rather than later, because otherwise the males will start to feel the lack of females, and they will fight each other and abuse the females, which is not good for anybody involved. So we will need to get rid of those. But the guineas come first. that's going to be later in the video. For now, I'm going to talk about the setup that we have here that we found works. First, there's this setup, which I had shown you previously. Wooden fence. Now, this is probably overly sturdy, but we had the lumber. It was from a previous project that we had used at the previous house, so we tore that down and we brought the lumber with us because we weren't going to waste all that good lumber. It had been previously painted, some of it. This was interior, this was exterior. So it was lumber we already had. If we would not have bought this amount of lumber for this project, but we had it, so we used it. So it's about, probably 4.5, 5 feet high. Hardware cloth. Don't use chicken netting. I don't know why they call it chicken netting, because it's not good. Maybe it's because it's used on a commercial scale, but you do not use this for your backyard flock, because raccoons can fit their paws through. Even a large raccoon can squeeze its paws through through the I think it's 1 inch. Yeah, through the 1 inch gaps in chicken netting. But this is hardware cloth. This is 1/4 inch. Raccoons are not getting through there. Then what we did was, you can't see it, but down here where you see the sod dug up, we dug all that up about 6 inches down, and we laid hardware cloth on there and then stapled it to the bottom of this. So basically this comes out like a skirt. Now, I already talked about this in the previous video, so I won't go over all the details, but it prevents digging predators. So we covered it up, and some things have attempted to dig through, so we put concrete on top of that, just a cinder block. Then, to prevent them flying, we're not going to clip their wing feathers. That doesn't involve actually like cutting the wing, but it's like giving them a haircut. There are certain wings. I believe they're called pinions, but I'm not sure. All flying birds have them. Chickens aren't flying birds, but they can fly over a net or this fence. We know because they did. So they can fly over. We didn't want to clip their pinions because we want them to be able to get away from predators. So we put up this. This goes up, well, I think you can see it up there, right where the tip of my finger is. So that's about 8 feet up, and we just drilled these in. These are just little garden stakes, a couple bucks a piece, plus we had them sitting around anyway. So that kept them from flying over, and it also provides a little extra protection for if a raccoon or something climbs up the hardware cloth, which we have seen them do, climbs up the hardware cloth, and then they have to get through this stuff, which is also stapled to the bottom. Now, we've never had an issue with the guineas flying over this. You can't really see it, but this is where the end of it is, because they don't like the floppy feel. When they test out something that they're going to fly over, they fly up on top, and then they fly off. Because this is floppy, they can't get their footing, and we haven't had an issue with them being in here. I think we have all 25 birds. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. I think I missed one because there's 26, and I know we only have 25, so we're good. There's no guineas in there. Okay, great. We do have a gate over there, and then the gate back there. That's the chicken coop. So the way this works, initially we had them just in this run when they were small. So they roosted in the coop, came out a side door, and came into here. Then they tore this all down to the dirt. Chickens are excellent at doing that. And anything that we give them just becomes dirt again in a couple of days. Let me switch again, switch arms. So that was too much, or not too much, it was too little. They got too big. So we thought, we'll make them free range. We don't quite have the, let me use official terms, we don't quite have the infrastructure for that, similarly to how we couldn't support 150 fowl. We probably have the land, but we have other things that we are working on. So that is not going to be ideal. It's something that we cannot take on right now, so we're not going to do it. So what we did was we gave them extra, basically we made another paddock. So we just took the same stakes that we used here. We also used at the corners. Sometimes we did metal posts. Sometimes we just did sticks that we got out of the woods, like that one. There we go. So this is a temporary paddock. If they strip this, then we can move on to, we can rearrange the fencing, maybe move it over here, and that way we can let this recover. However, it's going to take them a while. I do see some bare spots happening there and there and along the edge here. We have been supplementing them with feed, mainly to make sure that they have enough to keep them going while we are figuring out what we're doing. We would like to eventually get to not having to give them feed, but some resources we came across that this one guy talked about. Chickens are basically pigs with feathers, the way he described them. They will eat anything that they can get a hold of. If there is food available, they will eat it. It doesn't matter if they need it. So we're, as soon as they start laying, we will start kind of a rationing program almost to see kind of how much do they actually need. So that will save on some feed. It will also help to keep their little digestive system. Let me switch again. Whee! Keep their digestive system. All right, so switched again. It will keep their digestive systems going. So it doesn't get plugged. We don't want digestive issues in chickens. We've had that in the previous house, and I don't want to do that again. So there's that, and there's also making sure that they have plenty of water. There is a waterer there. There are at least 2 full waterers, so that's a good thing. Water is life. This planet is water-based, and the things that live on it are water-based, so we gotta have water. We just use the rain barrel water for these. We haven't had any problems with it. Another thing for making the feed more efficient is to soak it in water. It is wetter, so it fills their crop faster, and so since they are already given to gluttony, if they get full faster, they won't consume as much. They're more likely to consume what they need instead of what they want, which is a whole lot more. So that's the setup. Now, these poor little guineas. So I say poor little guineas more for myself than for them. So there they are. They are interesting birds. They look kind of like turkeys or buzzards. You can't really see from here, but yeah, hello. Those big old waddle things that look like bits of bacon hanging off the sides of their mouth. Yeah, there we go. He, let's see if he'll let me get close. Oh, his ugly beauty. Well, not really, just kind of his back end. So they definitely do fly, and they will go anywhere that you will let, well, anywhere that they can. They will push, so far they have pushed every boundary, and they also pick on the chickens, especially the Dominiques, which are smaller. We don't know if it's because the Dominiques are spotted. That's them over there, all along the fence there, spotted ones. But they pick on them relentlessly, so we had to separate them. I don't know if it's a temporary thing or if it is permanent. Guineas do have a different mating process than chickens. So a rooster will have about 10 hens to keep him happy. Guineas mate for life, and they pair off. So it'll be a male and a female, and they will stick together until one of them dies. So their process of finding a mate is a little more intense, and their fights are more vicious, and they would not leave the chickens alone, either the males or the females, so we weren't really sure. So that was one reason. Another one was that they would just go anywhere. The chickens have kind of learned where they're not supposed to go. The guineas have no, the guineas are stupid. It's not their fault, it's just the way they are. They're dumb. And then the last straw was when they ended up in the neighbor's horse field twice. We can't have that. Now the neighbor was nice about it, which is great. Very nice guy. Good to meet him. But we can't do this. So the chickens are fine. The guineas are not. We cannot. The amount, right now, what it boils down to is the amount of effort and time and resources that we have to put into maintaining them is not sufficient to the benefit that they give to the ecology we are creating. So they have to go. So we got a freezer from neighbors, a chest freezer. We needed it anyway for the amount of food that we eat, because we have 14 people on this property. And those are going to be the first things in it. Unfortunately for us and for those little guys, there isn't really a humane way to kill a bird. People are divided on two basic methods of killing fowl. One is the axe method. You stretch the chicken's neck out, or the bird, in this case the guinea's neck out, put your boot on its head, put the other boot on its body, which elongates the neck, take the axe, and down it goes. Obviously that has problems. Shooting them is not a good idea. It's a waste of a bullet. It's loud. It causes lead poisoning because the bullet is made out of lead, and then you've introduced it into the body of this tiny bird. It's a waste. And you still have the problem of, the same as the axe. What if you miss? How do you pin a bird down so you shoot it? If you don't hit exactly right, it's going to die in agony. So that option's out. There is a method that we had done for our previous batches of chickens at the previous house, where we would use what is often referred to as the cone of death, which is basically you take a milk jug, turn it upside down, you take the top, oh, I didn't mean to show you that, that's the remains of my poison ivy. I break out in poison ivy pretty bad. Here, let me switch hands. Alright, so you take a milk jug, turn it upside down, take the top, which is now the bottom, you take the base and you cut it off. So it's basically a funnel. Then you take the neck and you cut it off, so it's a wider funnel. So it's almost shaped like this. You take the bird and you put it upside down. Of course, its head is thinner than its body, so it fits into the funnel shape and only the head comes out the funnel. Well, first you have taken the jug and attached it to a wall, or a post rather, and then you put the chicken in it, the bird, and then the head is down here, so you pull the head through and they have a surprisingly long neck, and then you take a knife, a very sharp knife, and take the head off. I have done that. I took the sharpest knife we had, I made sure it was even sharper, and it took me 3 strokes to get through the poor little chicken's neck. So we don't want to do that. We need to find a method that works, and so we are going to go back to trying the axe on the block method. Unfortunately, in this sin-cursed world, we have to face the consequences of the reality that we have created, and this is one of them. Watching the painful death of creatures under our care. All we can do is try to minimize the pain and make it as quick as possible. I'm not going to show that. I'm not sure what YouTube would do to this channel if I showed bloodshed, even though it is real. And I'm not sure that I want to do that anyway. But just so you know, that is what's happening. That is what happens on small farms and homesteads and people who own animals all over the country, all over the world, and has happened ever since human beings have owned animals. As long as we've had animals, animals have died. And animals have had to have been put down by people. And before modern medicine, where you could just stick an injection into a thing to put it down, you had to stick something else into it, a piece of metal, brain it with a club, cut its head off, find some way of doing it. We don't like it, but it must be done because it is part of our stewardship. So, to wrap it up, the fencing has improved. We haven't had any predator issues or them getting out. The chickens are fine, but we're going to have to kill a lot of the roosters and get pullets in the spring. Pullets are young hens, female chickens that aren't old enough to lay eggs yet. And the guineas have to go. We might try them again at a later date, but we cannot take care of them, so they have to go. And that's it. I wish I had a better note to end on, but such is life. We are working on the mill, the lumber mill, so I may have a video on that next week. I would also like to do something on the garden, because we've been working on that. We've actually been working on several projects, so I'm not sure what the next video will be. It should definitely be a happier one, and we'll see you then.